tell, it is early July, and I am in the midst of the biggest renovation to this train layout since it was created about 21 months ago. So what I'm doing is I've extended, and I'll show you some photos. I extended this. You could see exactly where the old path was, this gray area here, this divider line. I decided I wanted R3 curves. Mostly, not for the reasons you think. A lot of guys say go R3 because you can run whatever you want. That's a bonus, but it's actually for this. I'm having, with the serpentine turn here, and I had a grade about 8 inches going from here down to here, and I'm like, I really need to work this out. Try to reduce how many derailments I'm getting. So what I'm doing is that layout. So the green line up in the upper right is the train shed, and so I'm going to try to reduce how much of a turn there is. And so what I've done is I extended, I modified the wall. It was there, so I bumped it out. Still made sure I had clearance for the gate to open and close, just barely. Filled it all in. I'm still waiting for it to settle for the most part, but, that'll take a few days. I'm going to rework this interchange in this area per the drawing you saw over there. So I'm going to be utilizing this curved R5, R3 switch from Pico. That should be fun. I've got a few rail clamps that I was able to grab at a super discounted rate. So in key areas, I'm going to use rail clamps. You've heard me talk about rail clamps a lot, and to be honest, conductivity in my track is actually pretty good. The conductivity between the rails themselves isn't the hard part. Usually it's just stuff on top of the rails, dirt, sap, stuff like that blocks the transfer to the locomotive. So how do I stand on rail clamps? If they're $1.50, maybe get it and do it every other rail section. But at $2, $3, $4 a rail clamp, that's stupid. That's just so much money. The copper grease and zip ties have held up well for almost 2 years. And again, the only reason I'm going rail ties in certain areas is just because, rail clamps in certain areas is because I was able to get them for like $1.50 each, which made it more affordable. So what I'm doing is, I wanted to raise this a little more than I did. Why? Well, I'm getting tired, to be honest. I've done a lot of work up there too, and we'll see that in a second. So I filled this. This will be a little higher by like an inch or two, not the 3 to 5 I was hoping for, but it'll help. It'll help a bit. This is going to get, you could see almost my entire outer loop is removed at this point. What I did is I started digging a trench. So I started just shallow, and then right about here it starts getting an inch or two deep. And then you'll notice over here it gets even deeper and deeper. And this is what I've talked about in some of my previous videos, how I wanted to reduce the grade, So you might remember, see all these blocks. If you look at my old videos, there's 3 blocks all throughout here. Well, as you can see, I've reduced it. Now, to be fair, the grade wasn't up to the top of the 3rd block, but still, I was able to get it down a couple inches. You can see here's these rocks and stuff. The train used to be right at the same level as these rocks, so I probably pulled it down 4 inches, maybe 3 to 4 inches over here. Back here, where that used to be the high point, it's about 6 inches lower. And the limiting factor is like right here and here and here. I have some roots of the tree that I just don't want to chop. I don't want to kill the tree off. So I had, that's as low as I could go without running into the tree roots. So it'll help. How much? We'll see. My whole goal was I wanted to try and reduce the grade as much as possible. There's still going to be a grade. There's still going to be a significant grade. I haven't done the measurements yet, so I don't know what it'll be. But on this end, you can see this is a little less obvious. You'll see it in the before and after photo, but I left all this brickwork the same, but right about here, I bumped it out. It used to cut short a little bit. Actually, it was kind of weird. It kind of like wobbled and stuff. That's this whole thing. So there was an existing pathway here that when we did this originally, I just told my dad, oh, follow the perimeter. And that seemed like a good idea until we laid track down. And it's like, oh, you know, if we had moved it like just a foot or two out in certain areas, we would have had those R3 curves, which, yeah, if you have the space, that's the way to go, is do R3. But you know, my layouts had R2 for almost 2 years now, and I've been able to run everything pretty good. So don't let people tell you you need R3 to be happy. You don't. I'm just taking the opportunity while my daughters are out and I had a week to work. I'm like, I'm going to fix some things on my layout I've been wanting to fix. And since I had to regrade this anyway to bring it down, I'm like, hell, I'm already digging dirt out and everything else. I might as well just move this a foot or two out and get you know, the R3 curves in there as well. I wouldn't have done it if it weren't for the regrading. So, you know, like right here, this is only about an inch or two lower, but still a little bit will help. It'll help so that the train's not pulling up the entire way as high and steep as it used to be. Now, the inner loop, that's not being touched other than over there. I'm going to be doing some work over there. But up here, it's going to remain as is. This is going to be basically for my smaller or more powerful locomotives like my Shea, my logging train, the Steins, stuff like that, where this grade and this steepness and these curves aren't going to bother it. So moving down here, yeah, so I'm going to zoom in on that photo so you can see what I've got going on. My plan, so this right here, this spur where my thumb is, that is where the shed that is right now. And so what I'm going to do is I'm also going to be making an R2 loop of the yellow line. So that was the inner loop. It used to be an R1. And because I have the space now, I'm like, okay, I'll make that an R2. Why not? And then this, the train warehouse, excuse me, with my control box, that's just going to be like a dead spur. I'm not even going to have a switch there. Switches are problematic. No matter how good or how nice they are, it seems like those solder joints and the pieces of metal that span, let me show you. So you see that there's these pieces of metal, and what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to take conductivity from one rail and jump it to the other, or you know, so it keeps the conductivity where it needs to go. Man, a lot of my switches have, you know, lost conductivity in certain areas, and it has nothing to do with the rail clamps because they're getting power. It's just on the switch or the moving parts, like either here or this one or this one, they'll lose power, and some of my smaller locos or even some of the bigger ones will lose signal for a second or two, and it's just frustrating. So here I'm going to have a little siding going to the train warehouse, but I'm not going to have it actually on a switch. That's just another derailment location. It's just more complexity. I'm probably just going to take a straight piece and chamfer cut the rails so it looks like a switch, but it's not. Same thing over here. I used to have a switch there, and it again caused constant conductivity issues, so it's gone. I'm going to just have a little siding there, and I'm going to have it chamfered as well, so it looks like it ties into the main railroad, but it doesn't. I'm not doing operations. I know some guys are probably like falling out of their chair here. I'm not an operations guy. All I like to do is have my trains run in a circle and not derail. So that's what I'm going for here. All right, let's do a walk around of what I got now. So put a few more hours in laying track. As typical, you know, things don't line up perfectly with the track plan you do on the computer. So improvised a little bit, but still pretty good. So here's the trough I made for the outer loop. You can see right there where the old line was. So it's about 3 inches, 2 to 3 inches below where it was. Not as deep as I'd like, but it's still an improvement. Going into an R3 or 8-foot curve around here. Then I've got a straight run, slight R5 turn there, straight, another R5 here to line up with this parallel. So these are parallel. And then this is kind of what I got going on here. So outer loop, inner loop. Inner loops are 2 5-foot radius or diameter. The R3 is the 8-foot diameter on the outside. There's that Pico curve switch. Looks pretty nice. It's going to go and connect to this. I'm going to have to cut a special piece of track there just to fill the gap. So some of these aren't finalized yet. This is going to be my siding. Turns off there, and it's going to cut straight back to the train shed. This is a straight piece, and it's going to do hopefully an R3 curve to the train shed. That is an R2 serpentine curve right now, which is not good. That's part of what I'm fixing. So the main run goes up here. It's going to have parallel tracks all the way up to here. And I'm debating whether or not I want to do a switch over, crossover here, like I show. I may or may not. We'll see. But yeah, otherwise the inner loop is more or less complete. So, you know, it's got a wider turn now at this end. Wasn't necessary, but it's kind of nice. And then, as I mentioned, I'm going to have a little siding piece right here that kind of just does that, just for display purposes. And then I'm going to chamfer it so it looks like it's a switch, but it's not. You'll probably hear airplanes on my video a lot. There's one right now. A T6 Texan, World War II warbird trainer. All right, I think I'm mostly done. So I'm doing the maintenance, track sweeper and cleaner. And then after that, I'm gonna run a train. And we'll see if everything works as I hope. So here's what this looks like. I still got all my leftover parts here. But you can see how it goes up into the shed now. That's an R3 loop there with a straight section of switch. And then it curves out versus, I mean, it's still a minor serpentine, but a lot less than it was. So I'll have to see how that functions. And there we go. One of my old switches has a dead spot in it. This is what I was telling you guys about in one of those older videos. Like, even if a switch looks like it's in great shape, I'm amazed how many times they lose conductivity in one of their little segments. So I'm gonna have to create a bridge or something to fix that. And with a slight nudge, there it goes. This is that new Pico switch. If it stops on that, I'm gonna be really upset since that's brand new. And I already know that that switch there, oh, it is stopping on that. It's quite a shame. I don't know why it would stop there. So I'm guessing these metal strips are not conducting, or they're not touching the track enough to conduct. So I might need to put a solder joint there or something to make sure it's got power. I'll get my multimeter out some other day, not tonight, and I'll check to see if there's any reading from it. But anyway, while that thing finishes its lap. So here's the new layout from the train shed. That's an R3 curve with a straight section there of switch before it goes to the main line. I'm hoping that reduces any derailments. We'll see. You can see I've also reduced how much of a grade there is by quite a bit. Hard to see. I mean, there's still a bit of curve, especially on this lower one. But on this main line one here, there's really, it's very, very minimal. I don't have a percentile or anything, but when I put my level on it, the bubble's just a hair past the line, which means it's almost level, which is pretty nice. This is all a little bit elaborate, but a nice smooth turn into here. But the thing is, these are R2s. This inner loop has an R2 minimum turn, so maximum turn. So any locomotives going on here, which pretty much are everything I own, can work on here, but if I ever do get bigger trains like SD40s or, you know, any of those, the Dash 9, then those will only be running on the outside track. Most of this is unchanged. Here and here you can see I start trenching the outer loops to give us a little bit less grade. Other than that, there's not a lot of difference till you come out here, and then this is where the old turn used to be, like right about there. And I bumped this out, so now I have R3 turn around here with a lot more space too, which is cool, because now I can try to maybe put an actual like little logging town or something in this area, which was my intent originally. But if you look at my old videos, it just didn't have a whole lot of space, so might be able to do more with it. And coming back over here, you can see a little bit more visual, better visual of the trench I did, so that it, you know, reduces how much of a grade it has. All right, let's get the white pass going, just because it's one of my more reliable ones. Let's see if it works. Yeah, so far so good. Let's follow it around. I'm gonna have to tuck those wires in. Let's grab these. Put them in here for now. Get them out of the way. Uh-oh. Yep, there we go. Didn't take long for a derailment. All right, derailment fixed for now. Not sure why it derailed. Right now it's on the inner loop. I'm gonna switch it to the outer loop after the next turn, and yeah, we'll see what it does then. Okay, I flipped all the switches to the right locations, so let's see how this handles transitioning from the inner to the outer loop. So there it is. Oh, same car. Yeah. Something over there is causing it to bounce. I'm not sure what. And it's weird that it's that car right in the middle of the train. When it comes back around, we'll take a close look at that area, see what's happening. And of course, as I said, I don't have Rail Pro, so if it starts to derail, I need to be by my controller so I can turn it off. Oh, and of course it doesn't do it now when I'm right here. Wondering, it's one of these maybe? Not sure. Maybe it's because the switch isn't 100% level. Remember, I've said that before, that these stupid trains hate it when those switches aren't level. Okay, well, after a few wonky little starts and fits, I think things are working okay now. Except for that Pico switch. That inner strip there is still weird. Right here. This guy needs, it doesn't have conductivity. This one does. I ran the track cleaner on this one and it didn't stall. So this has conductivity, but that one doesn't. Other than that, there's a few little areas where the ballast isn't, like there's a little bit of a dip in the ballast, and it was causing minor derailments, but seems to be working pretty good now. I noticed, so this one, the Mikdao, and my LGB F7, Streamline Santa Fe, they both struggle to go up the grade. It's still there, and also, yeah, it's stopping right there. So there's something going on with that switch I need to look at. But so you can see it slows down a little here, but now that's the worst of it right here. And then it gets to here and it goes pretty good, because now it's pulling most of the cars. After this point, it's less steep, and so it's able to pull up the hill a lot easier now with a lot less effort, I would say. I'm gonna have to get my Streamline F7 out and see how that handles it. But so far it seems to be going pretty good. And down the hill, it only starts picking up right here, is where it kind of starts accelerating a bit. But then it slows down a little bit here because this isn't as low as it used to be. So overall it works pretty good. Yeah, something's going on over there. I'm not sure what. I'll have to take a look. Oh, here's my F7. It definitely is going up the grade easier. I still am not a fan of how it sounds, like how the engine just keeps changing RPM. You'll notice it when it gets down here. But it does give you a good idea of where the grade changes are based on the RPM of the motor. And the R3 curves go a lot better with the Streamline set. I will admit to that.